This hour, Israel's naval forces have attacked the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, which is carrying humanitarian supplies to the besieged coastal territory. This is breaking news here on Press TV. Reports say at least 10 people in the convoy have been killed. The attacks have also left dozens more injured. In reaction to the violence, Turkey's foreign ministry has summoned the Israeli ambassador in Ankara. Turkish protesters have taken to the streets and tried to storm the Israeli consulate in Istanbul. Hundreds of politicians, activists and journalists are on board the humanitarian aid flotilla, along with 10,000 tons of supplies. The flotilla aims to break Israel's blockade on the Gaza Strip. Tel Aviv had earlier warned that it would stop the humanitarian mission. We're seeing pictures there coming in, the latest pictures from Turkey. Protesters there in Istanbul have stormed the consulate in the Israeli consulate in Istanbul. The breaking news you're seeing here on Press TV. These are live pictures you're seeing there of people in Istanbul protesting the attack on one of the ships that has been a Turkish ship. Live pictures you're seeing there from Istanbul. Outside the Israeli consulate, Turkish protesters have gathered, expressing their anger and frustration with the Israeli attack. The Israeli Navy's attack on one of the Turkish ships in the Gaza Aid convoy. At least 10 people have been killed, according to Israeli sources and Israeli TV channels, saying that death toll could still be higher even. Well, let's go now live to Press TV's Jody Sabral, our correspondent, who joins us now from Istanbul. Jody, we're seeing a lot of anger there, aren't we?
Yeah, of course, because this is a natural reaction for the Turkish public to respond in such a way to the Israeli military's intervention on this humanitarian aid mission. The boat that was apprehended by the Israeli military was a Turkish ship, and from the Turkish charity IHH, it was carrying the bulk of aid and also over 700 activists, we believe, from at least 50 countries around the world. As you said, Israeli television now are reporting that there are 10 people dead. We don't know the nationalities of these deaths, of course. And if there are any Turkish nationals that have been killed on board, then of course the Turkish government were going to have to respond quite strongly. The Turkish Foreign Ministry has summoned the Israeli envoy to them for a full explanation of what's going on. As you can probably see from the pictures, there are demonstrators outside the Israeli consulate in Istanbul. They've been there overnight, and a number of them tried to raid the Israeli consulate. They were restrained by the Turkish police. And we're also seeing pictures of demonstrators outside the ambassador's house, also being restrained by the police. But, as I said, this is an extremely emotional issue for the Turkish public, and one that the police can probably sympathise with. I've just been listening to Turkish television, NTV, and they were speaking to an Israeli foreign ministry spokesman who has called this a provocation and not a humanitarian mission. The Turkish anchor from NTV station asked him why, if there were no guns on this ship, the Israeli military reacted so harshly, and why didn't they just get on board and check these boats peacefully? And his response was that this was a provocation and that there were guns on, implying that there were guns on these aid ships. And of course, this will anger the Turkish public much more deeply, because this aid ship that we were on last week, I may add, we interviewed the charity IHH representative, who had said that this was a purely humanitarian mission, that they were carrying aid to Gaza, and that they were in no means carrying offensive weapons, according to them, that this was purely humanitarian. And the Turkish foreign minister also last week had urged Israel to open a humanitarian corridor for these ships. What we know now is that this largest ship, the Mavi Marmara, which is a Turkish ship, has been apprehended by the Israeli military and has been taken to the port of Haifa, we believe. But the information, of course, is still very, very confused. But as I said, there's going to be a lot of anger on the streets here today, and we're already seeing this explosion of anger from the Turkish public. And the Turkish Foreign Ministry summoned the Israeli envoy. So this seems like it is going to continue, and this will put a lot extreme pressure, of course, on Turkish-Israeli relations.
Yes, and Jody, as you said, protests have begun overnight, and we're still seeing live pictures there from Istanbul. Protesters are still standing there outside the Israeli consulate, expressing their anger and frustration with this latest development. So, Jody, we know that the Turkish Foreign Ministry, as you said, has actually summoned the Israeli envoy to Ankara. But what will be the diplomatic repercussions of this development now, especially in terms of relations between Tel Aviv and Ankara?
Well, yes, there's been a downward trend in relations between Turkey and Israel since the war on Gaza. If you remember, the Turkish Prime Minister openly criticized the Israeli president at a live panel discussion at the World Economic Forum, where he told the Israeli president, "You know how to kill," and this was a reference to the war on Gaza, in which over 1,400 people were killed. The diplomatic repercussions since then actually have been taking a downward trend. There has been a series of incidents. One other incident where the Turkish ambassador to Tel Aviv was called into the Israeli Foreign Ministry and sat at a sofa that was lower than his Israeli counterparts, and he was humiliated in Hebrew for the Israeli media. And this escalation now, of course, is going to further deteriorate these relations. The Turkish government will have to react because the Turkish public are extremely passionate about this issue, and the Turkish government do listen to their electorate, and we're seeing this now by the immediate response by the Foreign Ministry to summon the envoy, the Israeli envoy to Ankara. So, but we're going to have to wait and see now. We know that there is that the Prime Minister and the President and the Foreign Minister, they're all aware of what's happening. As I said, we're not sure of the nationalities of those who have been killed, and this could, of course, if there are any Turks involved in these casualties, and this, of course, will put extreme pressure on Turkey to respond quite harshly.
Jody, we have had reports now coming in from Israel that the Israeli forces are blocking information from coming from those ships, and that all signals have been jammed. So it's really pretty hard, almost impossible to contact those on board the ships, including our own correspondent who's on one of those 8 ships. So is there any effort being made to do something about this communication, a way to find some kind of contact with those on board the ships?
Well, just let me quickly update you. We now know that one of the Deputy Prime Minister Bülent Arınç has now come out and said that they are now evaluating the situation, which means they are now considering an official response from Ankara to what's happening. Regarding the communication, well, the Turkish ship was very, very well prepared with television equipment and satellite feeds, and this is why these images were able to be broadcast around the world, exposing what the Israeli military response was to this humanitarian aid mission. As you said, the Israeli military, we know, have been blocking or jamming the signals off the boat. So, yes, we haven't been able to touch base with our correspondent, Hassan, who was on board. He was on board. He set sail from Turkey a week ago. But now, of course, this information is very confused. Turkish NTV channel, as I said, we're just speaking to a foreign ministry spokesman from Tel Aviv, and they did ask him to confirm the number of deaths, and he was not able to confirm this at this time. He just continued to say that this was a provocation, not a humanitarian mission, which, as I said, will further deeply anger